I'm going to call this meeting to order at 6 p.m. This is a regular meeting for Tuesday, March 19th, 2024. Madam Clerk, will you please call the roll?
I will. Tim Hale will be a little late. Stephanie Nowers.
Yes.
I'm expecting Dee McKee. Robert Yunt. Here. Bill Gamble.
Here.
Dimitri Fonoff.
Here.
Ron Bernier, are you on the phone?
On the phone.
Thank you. Madam Mayor, you do have a quorum.
Okay. Is there anything any of the members would like to pull from the consent agenda? Okay. Are there any other changes to the agenda that anyone would like to make? Okay. Seeing and hearing none, then the agenda is approved as presented. If you all rise, please. And Mike, will you lead us in the pledge, please?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item on our agenda is the special assembly meeting minutes from the 17th of February and the regular assembly meeting minutes from the 20th of February 24. Are there any changes to these minutes as they have been presented? Okay, hearing none, the minutes are approved as presented. The next items that we have agency reports. We have a report from the cities. Yes. And let the record show that Assemblyperson McKee has arrived in the chambers. Go ahead, ma'am.
Thank you. Hello, Assembly. My name is Crystal Nygaard. I'm the Deputy Administrator for Wasilla. We wanted to, first of all, thank you for an excellent host that you were for the Arctic Winter Games. We hope that we met your expectations with all the facilities and everything that we provide. I know that our public safety and our Menard Center, they've all put in their vacation, so they're quite tired out. Just giving you a little update on the other side of the borough. We've had about 211 new businesses that have gotten licensed since January, so that is a really good sign. We have about 550,000 square foot of new construction that we are permitting right now for 24 and 25. We have put our zoning maps online, so if you are interested in seeing what is allowed for a certain piece of property in Wasilla, you can go to our planning page and you can not only see what's allowed, but you can see what type of permit. So when you call planning, you have a good idea of what's going to be expected. We are in the middle of writing our Title 16. That's our land development code, and we will be done with that in about 30 days. And that's all the landscaping, parking, all that other good stuff you get to talk about. We have already scheduled to do our comp plan update. That will happen this fall. So we'll be coming to you with an update on that. And thank you, Mike, for pulling us all together to do this Matsu Economic Summit, which will be April 24th and 25th, to go out to really give people a tour of our economic drivers that are out here. So thanks for being a good partner.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Is there, I don't see any other city representative. Okay, school district, please. And thank you for all what you did for Arctic Winter Games.
Thank
It
you.
could not have been possible if you guys hadn't changed. Spring break was I think maybe one of the first things you did.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd be here for the next 17 hours talking about all the things you did. But please know that we are very appreciative.
Thank you. Thank
All
you, Madam Mayor. Good evening to the Assembly as well. I'm not sure I'm speaking to Manager Brown yet, or as I like to call him, the poacher, but I'll get over it eventually. Maybe. We'll see. It's a little early to tell. But I do want to give just a brief update on what's happening with the school district. I appreciate the standard opportunity to provide an update. If there's ever any information that I don't talk about that is of interest and you want to make sure that we cover, please don't hesitate to let me know. First, I would be remiss if I didn't talk about Arctic Winter Games. The school district did do quite a bit, but we were thrilled to be a part of it. It was wonderful to see both our community members and also visitors get a chance to see our facilities. We loved being able to highlight them. I got so many compliments, I know others did, just on the wonderful event. And while I'm not the best person to provide an update, just appreciate that you brought that event to our community and that we were able to partner and support. So thank you very much for that. And as a result, spring break is now over. And unfortunately, our staff don't get to take a break now because school started today. And students were back in session to start the fourth quarter, and we sort of start the sprint to the end. There are a lot of activities going on. I just want to remind the Assembly that we do have a school tour planned for March 28th. We will be visiting Reddington and Denina Elementary School. If you've not received an invitation, I'll make sure that you do shortly. Anyone interested in attending, we would love to have you. And if you have other constituents that you think would benefit from the tour, please let us know. We are broadening these to the larger community to make sure that people get an opportunity to see the great things going on in our schools. And then just the last reminder for those of you who maybe like me are big basketball fans, and we're getting ready to start one of my favorite sporting events, the NCAA tournament. We also have our very own Alaska March Madness, which is starting this weekend, and we are fortunate to have 4 schools that are represented. Palmer High, Colony High, Wasilla High, and Houston High all have teams that will be participating. So if you want to watch some good hoops in Anchorage and cheer for Mat-Su teams, I encourage you to do so. Thank you again for all you do for schools. It's nice to be here.
Thank you. And I think we have yes, we do. Somebody from the state of Alaska. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Manager Brown, members of the Assembly. Todd Smolden with the Governor's Office in the Mat-Su. I also want to thank you for all the work that you and other community members did on the Arctic Winter Games. 2 years ago, I actually planned a vacation and then realized about 2 months before the games that I was going to be gone. So it wasn't intentional, but I did enjoy the sun that I was craving. So I've come back to work this week. It was interesting. I was following things that were happening in Juneau, but I'm not sure I was quite prepared for jumping back into the fire yesterday. If you haven't been following things, SB 140, the education bill, was passed, and then the governor vetoed it, and then yesterday there was an attempt to override his veto, which was unsuccessful. I think that one of the things that I've been kind of digesting is how to separate myself personally from what's happening in Juneau. As a former educator, I have some feelings just personally about education funding. As a parent who has a child who's 100+ deep waiting for a charter school for next year, I have some personal feelings about that. And then, of course, I just have some personal relationships with legislators and others. So it's been kind of interesting just how I deal with this on a personal basis. But you didn't want to hear about how my personal problems. So let me get into maybe some perspectives from the governor. One of the things that I heard during the Senate Majority's press briefing today was I heard the word compromise used a lot by the Senate Majority. I want you to understand that I think there has been compromise between the Senate and a majority of the House, but I don't think there's been compromise with the 61st person who also is involved in the legislative process, and I'm speaking of the governor. It is interesting that some people felt as if a veto override of SB 140 would mean a $680 BSA increase. I think people need to understand that the governor still has the authority to veto a BSA increase, and that can happen when a budget is sent to him. And I'm not saying this as a threat, I'm just saying that it's part of the process. So it really was kind of false hope for people in the education community to think that an override would result in a $680 BSA increase when the governor still has the authority, legal authority, to veto a portion of that BSA increase. The best part about all of this is what I heard Senate President Stevens say in the majority press briefing, which is, and it was his closing statement, that we need to work with the House and we need to work with the governor. And that was his closing statement, and so that's very encouraging. And the governor is very interested in continuing to work with the Senate majority and the Senate minority and the House to come to some kind of complete education package, which not only funds schools with the BSA increase, but also supports our teachers, supports parents and students with more public school choice, and also directly supports the READS Act. And I don't want to take any more of your time, but if you are interested in learning more about the governor's priorities and what it is exactly that he's looking for, I'm happy to talk to any of you or any group about that in more detail. There are other things happening as well, energy, and it was good to hear, I think Rules Chair Johnson in the House say we can walk and chew gum at the same time. So it's very possible for the legislature to work on multiple things at the same time. And that's what we'll be doing as well, is working with members of the legislature on those things. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to take them. And if not, I understand.
Assemblyperson Nowers.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If only the permanent fund started with an E, it'd be the all E session of energy education, and I guess we have the EEP. So on the energy front, there's a couple bills I know the governor is supporting, and one of those this body has gotten behind, which is the bill that would offer the same tax treatment for independent power producers as if a utility built a power plant, and would also get rid of the wheeling rates between utilities, so we wouldn't have projects built in the Kenai that suddenly the costs are exorbitant passed up to Anchorage or Anchorage up to Fairbanks. And then the other one is the very needed transmission line from the Kenai to Anchorage, which I've asked you about before, which we have $200 million sitting there from the feds to help us build that infrastructure that would allow us to have better energy supply and ability to move power around. So I just wondered if you had any updates on either of those bills, the one that has to do with the taxation of independent power producers and the transmission line, of which we're looking for some matching funding at the state level.
Through the mayor to Assemblymember Nowers, I don't have any like detailed updates. I would say that the removal of the tariffs from the energy line or making a one standard tariff is a priority of the governor. And also regarding the $200 million in funding, that was something that Senator Stedman brought up in the Senate majority briefing today. And I think his words were something like, we're not going to leave $200 million on the table for that project of federal money. So I know it's a priority of our office to look at how we can take advantage of that, and it is also of the legislature. It's just a matter of how they're going to work that out. Yeah.
Assemblyperson Yount, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to take a moment, get back to the education stuff, and talk about charter schools. So,
Oh, good education.
yeah, the reoccurring theme that I asked a lot or heard people discuss this weekend was it was really misinformation or maybe a misunderstanding. But there are still a lot of people, and I just wanted to put this out there so if anybody's listening, that don't understand that a charter school is actually a public school. So I heard multiple times from people saying it's not fair that they're trying to prioritize charter schools over public schools. We need to worry about our regular schools. Well, a charter school is a public school. They hire the same exact amazing teachers. The only difference is they I should say, the availability for way more parent involvement. And it doesn't get any more local than that. And so when you explain that to people, they're like, oh, I didn't know that. And so I just wanted to put that out there. I ran into that no less than a dozen times this weekend in conversations and in different places. So I think there's a lot of people out there that don't understand that, and we may want to talk about that from a messaging standpoint. So, thanks.
Through the mayor, that seemed like a comment which I definitely agree with, and I try to remind people of that as well. Not only are charter schools public schools, they're also the teachers of charter schools are public school teachers. The administrators are public school administrators. And I think that I think the reason why some people get confused is that they see that as a student maybe whose parents are involved and make sacrifices to try to get their children into a different school setting. Although it is very, very interesting that it also offers a great opportunity for maybe lower income minority students as well. In fact, that the charter school study that was done on Alaska charter schools, when they took out, when they factored out the higher income students in charter schools, and they included everyone, including minorities and lower income in our charter school system, they found that Alaska charter schools were number one. So it actually showed that our minority students and lower income students were benefiting at a greater level. And I also am seeing kind of a national movement for more choice for all students. The one difficulty is, and I always like to preface this by saying I'm not criticizing the Mat-Su School District at all when I make comments, because I think our district does a great job of this. But transportation sometimes is an issue for students to attend charter schools. But there are ways that districts can work around that. And that's also something the governor is interested in looking at doing. SB 140 included additional money for transportation, but there was no direction with that money. It was just additional money, which is great for the district. But again, it doesn't focus on some of the better outcome, school options or models.
Yeah, I agree. And I just wanted to mention too that, for most that don't know, this was never an education bill to begin with. This is a rural internet bill, I think, that they started to slam education stuff into. So I do hope the legislature brings back something specific to education, and it's not a whole bunch of stuff jumbled together, and we can actually look at the whole approach holistically. So that's all I got. Thanks.
Any other questions? Yes, Assemblyperson McKee, go ahead.
I was just going to make a comment, and that is two of the most amazing things that I have seen the last couple of years with the governor, the READS Act. I mean, when you're in the trenches and kids can't read, it's pretty hopeless. Well, it's not hopeless, but it's tough. And the other thing is to understand, you want to bet on a winning horse. Charter schools obviously are a winning horse. So what do? You just continue that line, and you look at what they're doing that public schools aren't doing, can't do, won't do, whatever it is, and say, you know what? That's where we need to be looking, and I really applaud him for doing that, because I'm not sure it's all that I'm not sure everybody's for it because of some of the misunderstandings, but that's the winning horse, and I think we got the whole educational system ought to head in that direction, ever how that can be done.
Through the mayor, if I could just
Go ahead.
just comment on that. Again, the charter schools are public schools, so what we're talking about is the difference between a public charter school and a neighborhood school. And I, as a former educator, I believe strongly that neighborhood schools can produce just the same outcomes that a charter school can, if there's a common goal, mission, if the administrator is able to foster that culture within a neighborhood school. But specifically to the READS Act, the money that was in SB 140 was just a blanket, just a lump sum for every student that was reading below proficiency. It was $500, and it was based on the number of students that you have reading below proficiency. Now, a very responsible school district could use that $500 and they could direct all 500 of that to below proficient readers. You could also not do that if that's what your school board or your administration chose to do. The reason why the governor was not satisfied with that is it wasn't money directed to below proficient readers. It was just a lump sum of money. And so to the READS Act and support for the READS Act, that's what he would like to see is some kind of granting, some kind of situation where it's set up. It's not just intent language, but it actually gets the money directly to helping below proficient readers, which supports the READS Act.
Further comments or questions from the assembly? Okay, guess not. Thank you, sir, very much.
Thank you for the time, and I'm trying to catch up at home from being gone, so I'll listen to the rest of the meeting, but thank you.
Thank you. And I understand there was no joint assembly school board committee on special issues, but a week from tonight in this chamber will be a joint school board and assembly meeting. And it is a public meeting, and you're welcome to come and listen. There will be audience participation if you wish to participate in that. And of course, is being advertised, so I'm not saying anything that not everybody knows. Any public relation reports? Okay, I just like to, I had already passed out to the assembly the information from our last South Central Mayor's Energy Coalition meeting that was held. And if you have any questions about any of those minutes or anything, there is a site on the Municipality of Anchorage's website, and or you can contact me and I can send some things out. The last meeting that we had a special presentation from Tyler Jepson, who is a staff assistant to Representative Tom McKay, who is head of the Resource Committee in the House in Juneau. And he did a presentation for us. If you have some questions about that, you can, as I said, let me know. I can forward that to you. It's on the Municipality of Anchorage's website. Also, he had done the same presentation to the House Resource Committee on March 4th, and so that's on akledge.gov if any of you are interested in that. Okay, Mr. Brown, do you have a report for us, sir?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I will be brief by the clerk's standards. So the Assembly had talked about residential scrap metal collection and transfer sites. There was a question a few meetings ago about that. So there's a flyer in your red folders. These have been developed, will be disseminated, out on social media. They'll be posted at the transfer sites and the central landfill. As you recall, the Assembly eliminated the scrap metal fee, and that will kick in July 1st. So folks will be able to bring those items to the landfill and transfer sites for free here shortly. The second item is also related to the landfill, the coupon. We are moving forward with the annual coupon. We are going to do it a little bit differently this year. It will go out electronically. It will not be a mailing. So we're working through that. We'll have some announcements and whatnot later. I just wanted to update you on that and let you know that we are moving forward with that. That is all I have, Madam Mayor.
All right, I think you did. You met the clerk's expectations, sir, I think. Any questions from the assembly to the manager? Okay. Mr. Attorney, do you have a report, sir?
I have a brief one.
Okay.
Earlier this week, the U.S. Supreme Court, actually the end of last week, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled on 2 cases that were before it regarding social media and blocking or removing posts. One of the cases was a city manager in Michigan, and the other case was 2 school board members out of California. And basically what the U.S. Supreme Court has ruled is that blocking somebody or removing their posts on social media becomes governmental action when, one, the person who does the blocking has the authority to speak on the government's behalf, and two, that person is using that power when doing the blocking or the deletion. And so what does that mean? It's been our practice here for a very long time that we have official borough communications. We have an official Facebook page, the main page. We have some departments and divisions run ancillary pages, but it's always been our policy and our practice that individual assembly members, individual elected officials, aside potentially from the mayor, don't speak on behalf of the borough generally. You're free to, point people to the borough. You're free to tell people to come to the borough. But this case reinforces the fact that just because you're an elected official does not mean you lose all rights to not have to listen to people if you don't want to. All that being said, it's been our advice through the years that you take great care in your social media, and that if you are looking at blocking or removing posts from people, that you potentially have a discussion with the legal department. We'll be coming up with a list of best practices and recommendations as a result of the case, kind of talking about, these are the things. It's a very good read. It's called Linkey. It was a unanimous court, no dissents, no concurring opinions, no alternate reasonings. And these days, that's very rare from the U.S. Supreme Court. All 9 justices agreed, one single opinion. And the rules, I think, are pretty straightforward. There's some squishiness in there, but we'll try and get something out to everybody here within the next month or so. Just kind of best practices, tips, tricks, things to look for. And just remind everybody that all official communications from the Mat-Su Borough come through the manager's office and our social media policy, which we have, that governs the employees who manage our pages and what they can do and can't do, and the postings and things like that.
Okay, questions to the attorney? Okay, all righty. Thank you, sir. Madam Clerk, do you have a report?
Just the clerk's report is in your red folders, and I also handed out next Tuesday's Joint Assembly School Board meeting agenda. That's it, Madam Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Questions to the clerk? No. Okay, the next item on our agenda is citizens and other correspondence. Are there any comments on the citizens or other correspondence? Okay, hearing none, they are presented. Madam Clerk?
I am 24058, reporting conclusion of contract number 22052B with Northern Asphalt Constructors for the total contract amount of $902,744.05 for the West Coramount, and I probably butchered that, Way Improvement Project. I am 24059, reporting conclusion of contract number 22103B with Western Construction and Equipment for a total contract amount of $275,100 for the right-of-way surveying and clearing services project. I am 24064, reporting conclusion of contract 23104B with Northern Asphalt Construction for a total contract amount of $382,476.36 for the Lucille Street Rehabilitation Project. I am 24065, informing the Assembly of the manager's signature on 5 grant applications for submission to the Alaska State Library for the Alaska Public Library Assistance Grants, and I am 24068, informing the Assembly of the change in the process for borough-owned land sales to include online sales.
Are there any comments on the IMs? Okay, hearing none, they are presented. We do not have any persons to be heard. The next item is public hearings. Madam Clerk?
Resolution 24023, a resolution approving an application to relocate a beverage dispensary license from an area outside city limits in the borough to a location within the city of Wasilla. If you're on the phone and would like to speak to this, press *3.
We have a staff report. Okay.
Yes. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Assembly members, and Mr. Manager. My name is Rick Benedict. I'm with the Mat-Su Borough Planning Department. I'm a current planner. The Planning Department has reviewed 18-1 LLC's application for conformity with applicable borough code concerning liquor license relocations. Beverage dispensary license 301 is eligible for location, as one beverage dispensary license relocation is permitted per decade. There have not been any relocations of this license type from the borough to a city this decade, which code defines as beginning April 1st, 2020. Public notice was made and no comments for or against the application was received. The Wasilla City Council has adopted a resolution allowing for the transfer of License 301 into city limits, and the state has placed the license in a delegated status pending borough approval. The planning department prepared a best interest finding considering the possible effects on the borough from where the license is coming and the proposed new location. The results of the best interest finding indicate it's in the public's best interest to allow for the relocation, and Resolution 24023 is recommended. That concludes my briefing, and I welcome any questions that you may have.
Any questions of staff? I guess not, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I'll go ahead and open the public hearing. Anyone is welcome to testify on this resolution. You have 3 minutes. Anyone want to say something on this resolution? We don't have a sign-up sheet. No. Okay. Do we have anybody? We do not have anybody online. One last time for anyone here. Okay, seeing and hearing no one, I will close the public hearing. And Assemblyperson Yount, would you move the legislation, please?
I move to adopt resolution 24-023, and if I may speak briefly to it.
Yes, you may.
So, hallelujah. This is a good thing for the city of Wasilla. State code, I just want to mention now because I've got something coming through, on a referral period right now on the planning commission, but the state actually allows up to 3 per decade to be transferred. Current borough code only allows 1. I am hoping to bring that in line here in the near future, but in the meantime, I'm just happy to see this one come up, and I hope everybody supports it. It definitely helps the city of Wasilla out a lot. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any further discussion? Is there any objection to the resolution? Cool. Seeing and hearing none, and the legislation passes. Madam Clerk.
Ordinance 24033, an ordinance extending the time limit for the completion of expiring project funds through June 30th, 2025. If you're on this phone and would like to speak to this, press star 3.
Okay, are you doing staff reports, sir?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. There's no specific staff report for this. This is an administrative function we bring forward every year about this time to extend project accounts that are set to expire for projects that were not completed yet and still are planned to be completed. So if you have specific questions on an individual project, we can address those. That's all, Madam Mayor.
Okay. I'll go ahead and open the public hearing on ordinance 24-033. No sign-up sheet. Okay, thank you. Anyone here would like to testify on this ordinance? Okay, do we have anybody online? We do not have anybody online. One last time, anybody here? Okay. See no one, I will close the public hearing. And let's see, I guess Assemblyperson Yount, go ahead, sir.
I move to adopt ordinance 24-033.
Discussion. Any objection? Okay, hearing no objection, the legislation passes.
Ordinance 24035, an ordinance accepting and appropriating $50,000 from the Matsu Trails and Parks Foundation to continue development of Settlers Bay Coastal Park with accompanying resolution 24029. A resolution approving the scope of work and budget for Settlers Bay Coastal Park. If you're on the phone and would like to speak to this, press star 3.
Okay, staff.
You'll have to turn your mic on.
There you go.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Assembly members. My name is Christian Minar, Land Management Specialist. This legislation is to accept and appropriate $50,000 from the Matsu Trails and Parks Foundation for the Settlers Bay Coastal Park project. Since opening the park to the public in 2019, Settlers Bay Coastal Park has become the second most visited and used outdoor recreational facility in the borough, providing green space for area residents and visitors to enjoy. The proposed funding will be allocated towards developing an access point to the park's newly acquired 187-acre extension. Your support for this ordinance will not only enhance access to our parks, but will also contribute to the overall well-being and quality of life for borough residents and visitors alike. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer them. Thank you all for your time.
Okay, thank you. Questions of staff? Yes, none? Okay, I'll go ahead and open the public hearing on ordinance 24-035 and resolution 24-029. No sign-up sheet, okay. Anyone would like to address either this ordinance or resolution? Anybody online, Caleb? No? One last chance. Okay, close the public hearing. And let's see, Assemblyperson Gamble.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move to adopt ordinance 24-035 and accompanying resolution 24-029.
Okay, and discussion by the Assembly? Assemblyperson Nowers?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just a comment. I haven't been around long enough in the borough to have been there when they mushed dogs down Kinnick Bay Road, but I did go down it when it was a single lane road and this park didn't exist. And for anybody who hasn't been to this coastal park, it's amazing location for getting out and walking yourself and the dogs. And I'm looking forward to seeing this develop. It's really going to be a community resource. And for anybody who doesn't know, that 187 acres was a person in the valley that donated it to us, that just to the borough because they wanted something legacy for their kids and grandkids and so on. So it's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Further discussion? Is there any objection to the legislation? Seeing and hearing none, then the legislation passes. The next item on our agenda is audience participation. We do have a sign-up sheet, so we will do the people first that are on the sign-up sheet, and then we'll open it up, and then we'll go to people online. And so, okay, Jackie.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Assembly. My name is Jackie Ivy Goforth. I am here in support of the new ordinance that's coming out, 24-039. I'm absolutely thrilled that it is on the agenda to be introduced. And I want you to know that it wouldn't even have come to a head, and we wouldn't even be here, if the libraries were not enthralled with the Marxist dictates of the American Library Association. The American Library Association is now pushing an agenda-driven policy to sexualize the innocence of children, normalize pedophilia, usurp parents' rights, among other things. They're using their policies and giving them to libraries as if they're actually legitimate. They're not. These policies violate the First Amendment right to redress government for a grievance. This policy also wouldn't be necessary if you had a board that wasn't in charge of everything that had to do with library books and hadn't violated the OMA, Open Meetings Act, all last year by not ever publicizing their meetings. Now, there's been a lot of slanted and biased misleading information happening about this. It started with the Palmer attorney's report. She cited all kinds of things that were slanted and biased, and the one thing she didn't, however, is ever addressed how any of her objects, were for the Miller-Ginsburg test. She never once cited a case that had anything to do with the obscenity clause and the Miller-Ginsburg case. Not one. Now I want you to know the Palmer. You're looking at the Anchorage Daily News, okay? I'm not giving you anything that I cannot prove. The Anchorage Daily News said, library books can be removed or have their access restricted only if they can be considered obscene or harmful to minors by a reasonable person in any part of the U.S. If you turn the page, you will see the actual law. The actual law says the individual applying contemporary community standards would find it prurient. Number 2 is a reasonable person. And number 3 is the material depicts conduct in a way that's patently offensive to the prevailing standards in the adult community as a whole. Not in the U.S. But if you want to know what that means, you can look at Chief Justice Warren Burger. He's on the last page. This is his exact words from the Miller decision. It's not constitutionally sound to read that the First Amendment as requiring that the people of Maine or Mississippi or Matsu Valley have to accept public depiction of conduct found tolerable in Las Vegas or New York or anywhere the ALA says. Now, I also want you to know that there's a board member putting out all kinds of misinformation, slanted and biased, from the library board. She's using an emotionally fueled agenda. And if anybody comes and answers her posts,
she blocks them. That is against the Supreme Court ruling that says any social media that is viewed as a state action when the official in question possesses the actual authority to speak. Thank you so much for your attention.
Madam Mayor,
Hi.
Assembly, good evening. I've attended several obscene book challenges in the Matsu Valley, and I personally challenged the book Identical at the Wasilla Public Library and Tricks at the Sutton Library. Both Zane from Wasilla Library and Julie from Sutton Library made the decision to leave the books in the YA area, which means young adult. Where else in society are 14-year-olds considered young adults, may I ask you? Jackie has made several challenges also. The library committees during the second challenges to the obscene books have again decided to leave the disgusting, vile books in the YA areas. And from what I've heard from the committees, I've determined that they have made their decisions based upon their emotions. They say things like, this book could help someone who's been molested as a child, or it could let them know they're not the only ones going through this, and other things. This reaction is based upon emotions and does not fall under the requirements of what was defined in the third prong of the Miller-Ginsburg obscenity test, which is whether a reasonable person finds the matter taken as a whole lacks serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value. I don't see emotional support in that requirement. So their reasons that they did that were unfounded. The U.S. Supreme Court established the test that judges and juries use to determine whether the matter is obscene. And these are the three prongs. Whether the average person applying contemporary adult community standards finds that the matter taken as a whole appeals to prurient interests. Their example is an erotic, lascivious, abnormal, unhealthy, degrading, shameful, or morbid interest in nudity, sex, or excretion. 2, whether the average person applying contemporary adult community standards finds that the matter depicts or describes sexual conduct in a patently offensive way. Their examples are ultimate sexual acts, normal or perverted, actual or simulated, masturbation, excretory functions, lewd exhibition of genitals, or sadomasochistic sexual abuse. And 3, while a reasonable person finds that the matter, taken as a whole, lacks serious literary, artistic, political, or scientific value. Any material that satisfies this three-pronged test may be found obscene. We have 226 child molesters in the Matsu Valley. Did you know that? Yikesy. 142 in Wasilla alone. Anchorage has 1,373 child molesters. These morally challenged pedophiles would likely find Identical very inspiring, as it's about a 9-year-old identical twin that's being molested by her father, and the other twin is jealous. But the majority of this community would label these contested books as obscene. One man who heard the writings within that book said he thought it was written by a pedophile, as he works in a prison among many pedophiles, so he knows. I'm very pleased that the Assembly and the Mayor are taking actions to keep obscene books out of the hands of children in the Matsu Valley. It's only proper and righteous thing to do. Thank you so very much.
Karen, would you state your name?
Karen Lewis.
Thank you. Okay, John?
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the Assembly. My name is John Miller. I've been a resident of Alaska for 50 years, and I've been a resident in the Matt Valley for over 40 years. I've raised 5 children here. They've all went through public school. I have 20 grandchildren, and I feel like I have a vested interest in what goes on in our borough. I am speaking in support of Ordinance 24039. I do not want my tax dollars going to support obscenity and pornographic materials in the schools, in the borough, and in the cities. I take responsibility to raise my family and to protect them from the enemies that, and all the different pitfalls that they can find in life. And I think I did a pretty good job, but There are some areas that are out of my control, and that's where you guys come in. You are the ones that protect our children from the influences that are harmful to them. Now, if we were to take a look at statistics and what's going on with our children, we see that the suicide rate amongst our kids are going up, the STD rates going up, the dysphoria, LGBT, gender confusion is kind of epidemic proportions. What are the reasons for this? Does anybody look at maybe what is causing these things to be expanding in our community? Well, I think it's just a decline of some moral standards that we've always held true in our community. And such as that is protecting our children from bad influence. And I think that these library books and some of the things being taught in our schools and allowed in our communities are a bad influence. And I don't want to be the one that's supporting this through my tax dollars and supporting the government agencies or the unions that are promoting all this stuff and using my tax dollars against me. So I am here to support this ordinance and for this Citizens Advisory Committee, and I hope that there's a big majority of citizens involved in this committee and not the administrators from the libraries or the school board or whoever, the borough. So thank you very much for your time.
Thank you. Chris?
I'm Chris Tyree, and I am for the ordinance too, because we do need some regular citizens to help with this book issue. We shouldn't even have to have it. These are adult women running these libraries, and for them to not think this is horrible, I just don't understand. And I was a kid that lived in the library. I loved the library. I used to walk 5 miles to the library almost every day to get books because I read fast and great, and so I was constantly changing my books. So I support the librarians and libraries, but the librarians are getting out of hand with the mental way they're thinking. And education, I don't want to really support education anymore because they're not doing their job. I've been in the Valley for 30 years, and they've been 49th in testing in the whole United States. That's horrible. There's 50 states and we're 49th, and it's been like that for 30 years. They're not changing their curriculum. They're not changing the way that they teach these kids. They're confusion teaching. And I keep showing the teachers and the administration what they're doing when it comes to confusion teaching for the elementary school. You should be able to teach a child in elementary school that if they run away, they can support themselves when they get 11, 12, and 13 years old. I have a daughter that ran away at 11 years old and left school. But you know what? She's got a master's degree now because she had a fantastic education in the elementary school level. That is where the foundation starts, and that's where all of it should be for the holding of all of the education needs that you have in your future. And they're not doing that anymore. My grandson is so confused in 2nd grade with some of the questions he's being asked. And then they're doing 5 and 6 maths every day and every week. When I was a kid, you did addition all year long in the 1st grade. At the end of the year, you did subtraction. The next year, you did subtraction. At the end of the year, you learned multiplication. You didn't do 6 different maths every day. That confuses a child, and you can't keep anything in your brain when you have to keep changing the subject. It's just horrible on a child. But anyways, the education, I think, needs to change because they're spending a lot of money on administrative level. And I remember when I used to go into the Wasilla City Hall right now, which is City Hall now, that's where the superintendent used to be 30 years ago. I used to walk in there and just talk to him. You can't do that anymore here in the valley. You can't just walk in. They've got security guards not letting you in to see the superintendent. And I don't think it should be that way. And I remember when everybody would be at the cooler listening to us talk. So, I think everybody needs to realize school is super important. These kids need a better education. Thank you.
Mhm. Kathy?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Assembly. There are several problems with the proposed ordinance serial number 240-9 that will create a Library Citizens Advisory Committee to review and make recommendations regarding challenged library materials. This proposal is not modeled after the school district's committee as it purports. It does not consider the current lawsuits against the school board because of that committee, and it completely undermines the Borough Library Board. First, this ordinance is not modeled after the school district's advisory committee. More than 300 people applied to be on the school district's committee, and in the end, each board member was allowed to select one member for the committee. In addition, 2 librarians, 2 educators, and 2 board members were selected to serve on the committee. This is not the direction that the mayor and the associate assembly members are taking. Instead, they are proposing a committee where all members will be appointed by the mayor. Giving Mayor DeVries 100% authority over who is on the committee is neither democratic nor in line with the school district's model, which the Assembly is purportedly following. And she has already shown her hand as to the type of people she will appoint to this committee by recently appointing 3 radical conservatives to the Borough Library Board who clearly don't support or even make use of our libraries. Is that what we can expect from this new committee? Second, the precedent has already been set for lawsuits against the removal or restriction of books from libraries in the Mat-Su Borough School District. In addition, the Palmer City Attorney has made it very clear that actions such as relabeling, relocating, and removing books from public libraries are illegal. Who's going to pay those attorney fees to fight that battle? The School of Government? Jackie and her entourage? I think the public and the Assembly deserve to hear from the Borough Attorney on this matter. Finally, how can the Borough Library Board be left out of this decision completely? Is it not the board's duty to initiate and recommend to the mayor and the Assembly proposed ordinances pertaining to libraries? Why is this ordinance even being proposed when the library board meetings have been put on hold? The mission statement of the library board states that they are there to strengthen library services within the borough by acting as an advocate for borough libraries. An advocate is someone who supports libraries, not someone who calls librarians evil and board members groomers. In this ordinance, they refer to the most recent challenged book committee meeting debacle by saying that frustrations boiled over. In fact, Dean McKee was out of order and led members of the audience to do the same by taking over the podium and microphone to accuse members of the committee and librarians in general of being pedophiles and distributing pornography. It was not just a matter of frustrations boiling over. It was a violent outburst that led to the committee members being escorted out a back door for their safety. These are the same people who want to form a borough-sanctioned Library Citizens Advisory Committee. Thank you.
Would you state your name, please, for the record?
Kathy Kaiser.
Thank you. Okay, and Mike, you turned in a written, what, do you want to go ahead? Yeah, okay, go ahead.
You don't smell it.
Can you pull your mic down, please? Thank you.
My name is Mike Coons from Palmer, Lazy Mountain. I support the upcoming ordinance serial number 24039. This is not just our assembly who are standing for our children, but this is across our nation. The opposition is terrified that they are going to lose their power to have full autonomy in putting forward books of their choosing. Instead, Mat-Su citizens will make decisions after review of the book content, not just reviews designed to sell a product. Yes, ALA is being dropped state by state, municipality by municipality. Their power, along with leftist librarians, is being ripped from from them for one great reason: their support of putting children's minds and bodies in jeopardy, which is totally disregarding the people whom are responsible for protecting those children, the parents. The accusation by the opposition is that we haven't read these books, yet Jackie and others have read and read into the record at Borough Assembly and City Council meetings from these books. Yet the librarians admit they only read reviews that are biased to selling that book. They then read the books only upon the complaints with a historical bias to the LGBTQ and to justify their power. I commend Jackie and others stomaching this trash so they can raise the issues of obscenity, porn, etc. in a clear, concise, and factual manner. Mark 6, verse 11 says, "And whomever will not receive you nor hear you when you depart from there, shake off the dust from under your feet as a testimony against them." Since the librarians who are opposing not only God's words, but the moral outrage by the community, I shake off your dust. In 2 Timothy, verse 7 says, "For God has not given us a spirit of fear, timidity, but of power and of love and of sound mind." We, the people, are not fearful of these librarians or their LGBTQ supporters. We invoke the power, the love, and the sound mind that God has given us, the power against this attack by Satan to steal our children. God will not allow us and our children to mingle with the strange fire of evil, which is the LGBTQ. Let me be clear, we don't care if they oppose us. We don't live in their world. We pray that one day you will find the love of Jesus. Until then, we will continue to pray for you in love as the children of the Lord, whom you have chosen to turn away from. Until that day, we will shake off your attacks in testimony against the hatred from these librarians and LGBTQ activists against the people of in closing, Matthew 18, verse 6. "If anyone causes one of these little ones who believe in me to sin, it would be better for him to have a large millstone hung around his neck and be drowned in the depths of the sea." Be forewarned, librarians and LGBTQ activists.
Okay, David Potter.
Going to be a little bit of a topic change. My name is Daniel Potter, and this right here is a wholesale package of Copenhagen Wintergreen Long Cut. I had to pay $60 for a 5-can wholesale package. I gathered this information for the general public as Matsu Borough Code 33185, the confidentiality of records, has made retailers and distributors fearful of reprisal from the borough and the loss of their tobacco license should they tell a citizen how much they pay in tobacco taxes. The manufacturer suggested retail price is $29. I had to go outside the borough and promise not to name the distributor to get the wholesale price of $41.39. This has already had $23 in state taxes paid on it. It then comes out to the valley where it is taxed by the borough at 55% of the wholesale value, which is roughly $13 for one wholesale package. Cigarette smokers, because I don't discriminate, y'all pay $25.60 a carton to the borough. The borough attorney says in the online budget video, I quote, "It is a privilege to possess tobacco in the borough. Wholesalers and distributors pay for the privilege." Well, first, it's only a privilege because you stripped us of the right using legislation. Second, excise taxes are passed on to the consumer through increased retail prices, hence $60. The borough received $8.9 million in tobacco excise taxes this past year. As prices go up and borough residents are having to tighten our personal budgets, we drive on roads that are more crack sealant and pothole fills than actual pavement. Ever driven down Point Mac Road? I'm not even going to bring up the school district issues because I just homeschool my kids through YKSD because this borough school district is a goat rope. As elected officials, your goal should be to provide the highest quality services to the borough taxpayers at the lowest possible cost and detriment to the taxpayers. If not, then you've become an oligarch. I've spent a majority of my life in public service holding a large amount of authority. I had a Latin phrase tattooed on my arm to remind me every day, you lead to serve, not to rule. If you're gonna bilk your taxpayers, give us more than a landfill coupon.
Marvin Charles? Oh, Marion. Oh, okay. So I'm sorry, excuse me.
Mayor DeVries, Manager Brown, Borough staff, and Borough Assembly members. My name is Marion Charles, and I'm a resident of the Willow community. My purpose in speaking this evening is to express my strong support for libraries and librarians, and to speak against the proposed formation of a Citizens Advisory Committee that does not appear to ensure a balance of perspectives and does not appear to give librarians a voice in dealing with challenged books. After reading the ordinance, I have many unanswered questions about the procedure for challenging a book in our borough. Does a patron begin the challenge with the librarian? Is there no resolution? If there is no resolution, does it then go to the advisory committee? What will the criteria be for membership on the committee? What will the scorecard look like? Did the sponsors of this ordinance request input from the borough staff, including librarians? I support the right of concerned citizens to challenge the placement of a book in a library. A borough procedure has long been in place to do so. It is distressing to me that the previous process for challenging books has resulted in unacceptable name-calling, threats to librarians, and general disrespect for individuals and the process. We all hope for a more workable procedure. While considerable time and attention has been given to challenging books, let me briefly remind you that library services and librarians continue to daily serve many with access to a variety of materials, book clubs, story times, mentoring, special interest programs, assistance with job applications, etc., etc. The library is an important part of my life, and it is important to many people in the community. I do encourage you all to spend time in libraries. I ask that you reconsider your current proposal for the formation of the Citizens Advisory Committee. The establishment of such a committee must ensure a balance of opinions and certainly include librarians as members. I personally need more information on the entire proposed challenge process. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeannie?
Good evening, Mayor, Manager, Assembly members. My name is Jeannie Troshinsky. I'm here in opposition to Ordinance 24, I don't have my glasses on, 039. I am so disappointed that something like this is rewarding the completely unhinged and inappropriate behavior of a small group of individuals at what should have been a hearing. And the rules were set out ahead of time. It was completely an embarrassment, and I do not think that that behavior should be rewarded. I also would like you to consider that if you went to the doctor and the doctor recommended that you needed brain surgery, I don't believe that for your second opinion you'd go to the auto mechanic. We do live in the valley, so I don't really know for sure, but I think you'd probably go to another doctor. Librarians need to be on the committee. The reason that you have librarians on the committee is because they're taking into consideration the good of the entire community, not a group of people, not a small group of people. Our community is very diverse. Our libraries are so loved and so well used. I served 2 different terms where you could do like 2 terms and then you had to take a break and then you could serve again on the Borough Library Board. I feel passionately about the importance of the libraries in our community, and I have been to every library in this community, spent time at every library, and I love what I see. And it is not these people. It is parents who actually on the to get their Borough Library card for their children sign that they will be responsible for monitoring what their children check out. It is a parent's responsibility to determine what is appropriate for a child and what is not. Some of this is just so ridiculous. One of the books that they've objected to was written in 1970, published in 1970. They're acting like these books came out yesterday. Nope, a lot of them have been around a long time. And the other thing to consider is the school district is being sued for this very same kind of action. There's 2 things the school district will lose on. One, the formation of the committee, because the committee is not balanced and does not represent the whole community. 300 people applied to be on it. It's very, very biased. And they're going to lose because the books are not obscene. They won't meet, as much as Ms. Goforth cannot understand the law, it will not meet the law for obscenity, and none of the books will. Thank you for your time. Please get to your libraries and see what's really happening and the great things that are going on. Thank you.
Thank you. Mary Robinson?
Good evening, Mayor DeVries, Assembly members, staff, Manager Brown.
Audience, just a minute. Audience, sit down. Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you
go
for
ahead.
interceding in that. My name is Mary Robinson, and I am a borough resident. I am speaking against Ordinance 24-039, and I do want to clear up a piece of misinformation as I go from meeting to meeting, school board, assembly, city council. There always seems to be several things, housekeeping, if you will. So it was said that the Matsu Borough Library Board members did not publish the meetings and they violated the Open Meeting Acts. Well, no, as it's on your own website, matsugov.us, there is support staff. And if I understand correctly, they are the ones responsible for publishing the meetings, the dates, the times, the locations. The Matsu Borough Library Board is a completely volunteer. They do receive gas money, I believe, if they choose to receive that. Most of them do not because they love libraries that much. So let's clear up that misinformation. Once again, the borough is making things more difficult than it needs to be. Again, I am speaking against Ordinance 24-039. Libraries are for everyone. Whether you believe PragerU is an academic institution, which it is not, as PragerU does not hold classes, does not grant certification or diplomas, and is not accredited by any recognized body. Or perhaps you believe in biblical governance and the Seven Mountains Mandate. It's a nonprofit, it's a church, it's a political action committee. Alaska School of Government. If you believe in that. Perhaps you believe that intellectual freedom is important and no one should tell you and your family what you can access at the public library. And again, I will reiterate, as several people before me have, if you really, really, really want to embroil the borough in lawsuits, move forward with what you're considering with this ordinance. And I, for one, will sign up for one of the first lawsuits. Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Audience, please be respectful. Okay. Alrighty, so that's, we don't have an additional sign-up sheet? No, okay. So anyone else here that would like to address, this is audience participation, so you can speak on any subject to the assembly.
Hi, I'm Mary Ravetta from Wasilla, retired substitute teacher and therapist with my master's degree in psychology, and retired at Boeing as an engineer in electrical. I was at that meeting. I wanted to share, and the librarians each had a really typical response of, I wish I had these kind of books to read when I was this age because I wouldn't have felt so alone with it. Now, I've seen the books, and these books are not a book that you give someone who has a problem in that area. These books are more to give a person that has a problem more of it. It's like alcohol. If you had alcohol, you give them more alcohol, it just makes the problem worse. Or drugs or anything addictive. The books aren't helping you. They're actually making the problem like a bigger wound in your spirit or soul. It's just making it bigger and worse off than better off. So I did find that each librarian said, ooh, I wish I had this book when I was that age, which we're talking about 14 to 17 years old, which is very young, and their minds are not developed enough for this kind of material. And it really just does violation. I specialize in the sexual brokenness area, so I know this. And this is not what you give a child, especially when it's wounded. It's just making it worse. So each librarian had just said this kind of thing. I think you should keep the book, and I wish I had this book. So each one said basically the same kind of thing. And the biggest problem about the whole thing was they were not letting anybody in the audience speak. So here we're all upset with what we're hearing, that children are getting violated, and we were not able to speak one bit. And they all walked right out of the meeting. And so we do need a meeting where we do ask those questions. We need to ask the questions that last audience said, well, we can specify these things and get these things out in the open, basically, and clear it out that our children aren't being, that they're not being hurt and violated, that they're being protected. So that's what I want to share, and I'm against the books that are hurting our children. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Good evening. My name is Jessica Young, and y'all, I am tired. I just got off a 12-hour shift on my feet. So I'm going to try to make this as quick as I can. I know a lot of librarians. I've been an avid library user my entire life. I came here from Texas because Texas did not believe the things I did, like that you should be able to choose things for yourself. I liked that Alaska had a spirit of rugged individualism. You do what feels right for you, I'll do what feels right for me, and we can coexist. And I'm not sure why we've decided that libraries do not get that same spirit of rugged individualism. If you're unhappy with your child reading a particular book, parent, monitor what they're reading. If you are really upset about STD rates in the Mat-Su with kids, perhaps consider medically accurate sexual education in school. My main point being, you have every right to decide whether or not a book is for your child, but nobody else has that right. And if I want my children to have access to modern, accurate, literary, important literature, if I had had access to some of this literature when I was a kid growing up in Georgia and growing up in Texas, I wouldn't have felt so alone. I wouldn't have felt so broken. It is important that this is available for our community. Our entire community needs access to everything. I don't particularly like books by Bill O'Reilly, but I would never say we shouldn't have those in the library just because I don't agree with them. I would tell my kid, hey, maybe not read that. It's kind of full of crap, but you know, it's up to them and it's up to me. You can choose as a parent, you can choose to parent. If you are upset that books are available for people to check out, then do your job as a parent and attend the library with your child and guide them the way you would like them to be guided. But ultimately, it's nobody else's decision but the parents, and you don't get to take the right away from me to allow my children to choose what they want from the library, which is a community resource for everyone that is meant to be a free resource for everyone and cater to the entire community. You should not be catering a public resource to one small subset of, frankly, terrifying people. Thank you.
Hi, Madam Mayor and Assembly. I'm Elizabeth. And I was not planning to come up here tonight, but I just heard the testimonies and, you know, it makes me sad to hear. I grew up in the library. I love the library. And I love taking my children. I have 3 small children and twins. And I love taking them to the library. It means so much to be able to go and look at all the books and, you know, because you don't want to just buy all the books. So it's wonderful to be able to go and do that. But I started hearing about all these books that were in the library. I was like, surely not. And I started looking on the shelves and I'm like, oh my word, they are here. There are trashy books for my small 4 and 7-year-olds to see. And that broke my heart because I was like, how is it that this isn't in an adult bookstore? Why is it here in a public library where I pay a lot of taxes and my tax dollars are going towards that? I was like, that is sad. So I would love to see them taken out. I think that would be wonderful. I would love to be able to go to the library freely and have my kids be able to look at all the books and check them out. I'm a big supporter of that. But I don't want trashy books in the library. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Susan Pouger, and I am here to speak in support of our libraries. Libraries do a lot more for our community than just provide books to check out. Libraries are a wonderful community resource. You can pick up your paperwork to do your taxes. You can go and fill out an application for your PFD. You can take your children to reading time. There's a lot of things that happen in our local libraries besides checking out books. Wanted to talk in support of the First Amendment. I know that people don't like to consider this when we're talking about libraries, but the First Amendment is freedom of speech, freedom to receive materials, freedom of the press. That's all press, not just newspapers. That's people publishing books. You don't get to decide what people publish. That's no business of anyone except for if people buy the book, then you'll make a living. If you provide books that nobody wants to read, you're not going to be around for very long. Librarians have always been champions of the First Amendment. I want you to take a look at your own library collection policy. If you haven't taken a look at that, you probably should. Take a look at your own library collection policy. It is there so that librarians don't just buy books that they like or books that would appeal to people just like them. It is a policy that provides for librarians to buy a wide range of materials. Most libraries in the U.S. have that same policy. Your librarians follow this policy, your policy, that you maybe haven't looked at. Sidestepping this policy and putting in place a government-appointed committee to review and make recommendations is in essence government limiting First Amendment rights. Other amendments are protected vigorously. I'm sure you all protect the Second Amendment. Why is one amendment more important than another amendment? They both provide rights for citizens. Trying to fix a problem that doesn't exist. Why are you trying to fix a problem that doesn't exist? I know Ms. Goforth readily admits she found her books online. She went to an online place, found her book. I'm sorry, it was still at the time from when the other person was here. I don't believe it started at 3 minutes.
It did. It did.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Hello, my name is Travis. I live in Palmer. I wasn't really planning on speaking because I didn't write anything to speak about, but I think I need to speak up about this because I don't think anyone else would speak about this particular perspective. To start, when I was a young lad, I had a hard time reading, so I knew there was a library, but I didn't go there very much at all. And part of it was because a lot of it was I was homeschooled, but although I went to public school most of the time, but a lot of it was homeschooled. And I think homeschooling, if you're to the people who are concerned about kids being exposed to the wrong material and to the wrong being exposed to bad influences, that could be found at school. Why not try promoting homeschooling? Because at the Global Credit Union building, they have a homeschooling service in there. They're not very hard to find. They're pretty easy to find. So if I'm speaking to everyone who's concerned about the youth, they could put their kids through homeschool so that the parents will have more supervision. But also at the same time, they also have access to the internet and also to the grocery store where they could look at books, and they're no better. Let me tell you, they're no better than what they're at the library. And I do like the library. I like to go there. I just read, and I don't pay too much attention of what's on the shelves in there because the only thing I'm concerned about is what I bring to the library and read over there. And I'm not necessarily checking out books. So anyway, that's a thought. So thank you.
Mhm. Thank you, Travis. Anyone else? Yes.
My name is Linda Spohn. To not be able to define obscenity is ridiculous. It's foolish. To not be able to define the perverted, vulgar, indecent, pornographic filth in the material that we have presented to you in our local libraries as obscenity is insane. Our Attorney General, Treg Taylor, defined it quite well in his November 16th, 2023 letter. So let's call it addictions. Pornography is an addiction. So are drugs, alcohol, and cigarettes, all glorified in these books. Why do taxpayers have to pay for addictive material in local libraries? Addictive, obscene material is utterly without redeeming social value. We want accountability for how our tax dollars are spent, and we are not getting it. As elected officials, you have a responsibility to decide what is best for the people and the community as a whole. To promote addictive, obscene material in libraries and schools is not beneficial for our community. To leave addictive material in libraries and schools sets a precedent or guide to be considered in future scenarios. It leaves the door open for more and more and worse and worse. That is how addictions work. The addict seeks more and more and worse and worse. Where does this go in years to come? We need a resolution to have this dangerous material removed from the libraries, never to be put in local libraries or schools again. We are not taking away anyone's First Amendment freedom. This filthy content is available to whoever seeks it. We never said ban anything or burn anything. We just don't want our hard-earned tax dollars paying for it. The Marxist ideology is to have taxpayers fund to shatter traditional family values. We need leaders who will protect and unite people in a healthy atmosphere, thinking of the future of families. We all need to focus. What is truth and what is delusional? What is right and what is wrong? What is good and what is evil? Because there is light and there is darkness. We all need to focus. May God help us through the shed blood of Jesus. Also, if you can support the Arctic Winter Games, why not act on the concerns of families and minors who live here permanently? If we were talking about removing asbestos, you would shell out millions to remedy the situation, but we can't remove vile, filthy, vulgar, perverted pornography. Let's keep our focus.
Good evening, Mayor and Assembly. I haven't had a chance to read this ordinance that's proposed, but if it's going to do something.
Can you give us your name, please?
Oh, Mark Spone, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
I'm not a public speaker. But I haven't had a chance to read the ordinance, so, but if it's going to help in any way to keep kids from having access to pornography that the borough is supplying through our tax dollars, then it's got to be the right step. And some of you are employers, some of you have been employees. The employees don't tell you what to do. You give the orders to the employees and they carry out the task. So to have librarians say that they want to tell us what to do and tell us what we should have in these places, no, they're getting funded by taxpayers. They are employees of the taxpayer. That's not the person who makes the decision. They're going to work to carry out the taxpayers' wishes, not the other way around. And the most important issue that we face is our children. Taxpayer funds being used to supply pornography to our children and groom them, that's an addiction. Have you ever talked to somebody that's got an addiction? It's really hard for them to get over it. And I've talked to people that told me when they were introduced to pornography that it was extremely hard to get over. And we want to use taxpayer money to fund this for our libraries, and our librarian staff needs to stop this immediately. It's common sense. Why is common sense so uncommon? And that quote isn't from me, that's from Paul Harvey. But how can we be here today even discussing using taxpayer money to give the chance for kids to be addicted to porn? And we're funding that? Come on, we can do better. So I appreciate your help, and let's keep our focus on this and get rid of it. The borough has set a lot of standards that are gleaming in this state. Let's not stop now, but let's quit using taxpayer money to get our children addicted to pornography. So thank you for your time.
Anyone else that would like to?
Mayor, Assembly, I don't really know the standards and procedures for this. My first time at a meeting. But this is really nothing more than communism and Marxism trying to take control of and sow chaos and division between us. You can tell because they use our values against us. Oh, you're threat to democracy, or, the First Amendment. The First Amendment doesn't give anybody the right to show pornographic images to children. I support this ordinance, and I know the majority of the Mat-Su Valley supports you as well. I heard someone say, "Oh, that small group of people," after they said the word library 20 times. It's not a small group of people. We are massive, and we're not going to let you commies come in here and destroy our community. That's all. We are not.
And you got his name?
I didn't say it.
Sir, yeah, can you? Okay, you got it? Okay, thank you, sir.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you for letting me speak. My name is Julie Pollard. And when I was raised, and when I raised my children, we didn't have access to this garbage. And it is for the protection of our children and our future great-grandchildren and great-great-grandchildren. If we go down this road and allow this smut in our libraries, in our schools, then we will not have a country left at all. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Howdy.
Hi.
My name's Ron Huckstep. Just couldn't take it any longer. I had to come up here and talk. I'm sorry, but the public library is for the public. There's no doubt about that. But porn is not for the public. Porn is for individuals that desire it, not to be handed out and provided. And like everything else that we have in our society, they start with it, maybe a college course or something. And the next thing you know, it's turned into teaching it to our grade schoolers. So this stuff, it's been around since the 70s. I mean, it hasn't caused any damage or anything because it's been around. We don't know that there's no damage being caused. But the fact is that as it comes up, and then they start saying, well, it's been around. We need to use it because it's been around and it hasn't done anything. The problem is, it has done stuff. And just because it's around doesn't make it good. It just means that the good people didn't realize that the bad crap was there. So, we need to fix this. We're not stopping it. If they want to go buy this stuff, they can get it online. Everybody knows how to do that nowadays. They could have went to a bookstore, an adult bookstore. Heck, they could even put this stuff in an adult section of the library, which I disagree with. I don't think there should be an adult section for the library. They can find their stuff wherever they want without having to go to a public library that's for the people and try to find pornographic crap and other stuff. I'm sorry. We need to take and straighten this out, and we need to do better. Porn does not belong in any library. It can be purchased privately from anybody, anywhere. We don't need it. Thank you very much.
Anyone else that would like to testify or say something to the assembly regarding any subject? We are under audience participation. You can address any subject to the. Mm-hmm. That's all right. We'll wait for you.
Thank you. Can I get you to pull your mic down? Sure. Thank you.
First, we'd like to thank you, Mayor, and thank you for Assembly for being here tonight and for letting us be able to speak. I'm in support of the 39 ordinance. I've been a marriage, family, and child therapist for 27 years. And it's just a passion of mine to help families and to help marriages and mostly to protect these sweet blessings that are being raised. We know that through history, what pornography and negative content that children view at a young age and how it will impact their future, how it will impact their health, how it will impact their future marriages, their interactions with others. It's very important. And I agree that it is the parent's responsibility, but I also agree that it has to do with the public too and what they're influenced with. I was raised in libraries. My grandma was a librarian. My mom brought me to the library. Libraries have been a fantastic place. I bring our 5 children to the library. It's a wonderful place. I think, though, that it's important to see your guys' responsibility in this, too, and to be able to say, what can I do to protect our children? You know, they're the next generation, and it is an important issue to take into consideration, to think about, to pray about, and to see, what can I do? So I thank you all for listening to us. We definitely appreciate it.
Ma'am, can I have you state your name? for the
Michelle
rec-
McKenzie.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else that would like to address the assembly on any subject?
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Assembly. Thank you. My name is Finn Rye, and I am in support of the 039 resolution. I'd just like to remind those that say this is a First Amendment right, they should probably study up on their Constitution and their amendments and the rights of citizens. Libraries, as a government entity, do not have rights. They do not have a First Amendment right. A library does not. The government does not. The individuals may. So those librarians, those who support the library, those who work there, that want to give out this type of material, they could do that on their own dime, in their own locations, not at a government-funded location. We do not, the citizens have a right to not support using taxpayer funds for this garbage. And the American Library Association is pushing an agenda. And I just encourage everybody to go do their own study and understand what that agenda is. And it is not for the safety of our children or the education of our children. It is a political agenda. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to address the assembly on any subject? Okay. Caleb, do we have people online? No? Oh, okay. So that surprises me. I thought we'd probably have a list, but anyway, I'm sure we will in 2 weeks. So I'll give the people here one last chance. Again, I will say we are under audience participation. You can address the assembly on any subject. The only I'm sorry, sir. I can't allow you to speak twice. We don't allow people to speak twice. We probably will have a break right here within the next 5 minutes. And so snag somebody from up here and talk to them, okay? All right. All righty. One last chance, but no second chances. How about that? Okay, with that, then I'll close audience participation, and we'll go ahead and have a break until 8:50. Thank you.
D.
I'm going to go ahead and call the assembly back to order, please. Okay.
Take it across the finish line, Mayor.
Everybody's
Yeah,
up there,
thanks.
Madam Mayor.
Okay. So I'm good. If I could have you take, audience, if I could have you take your conversations to the lobby, go ahead and continue talking, but we need to start the meeting back up again. Thank you very much. Okay, we are at the consent agenda. Does the assembly have anything they want to pull? Okay, again, seeing no one wants anything to pull, Madam Clerk?
Resolution 24033, a resolution approving the amended scope of work for project number 47513, Planning Department on-call positions. Resolution 24035, a resolution amending the scope of work for station repairs and modernization Phase 1 project for Greater Palmer Consolidated Fire Service Area to include expanded areas of repair and upgrades. Resolution 24036, a resolution requesting the school board review and comment directly to the Alaska State Legislature on Senate Bill 173, the Safe Schools Act. AM 2415, awarded bid number 24087B to Otna Construction and Primary Products in the contract amount of $105,070 to implement the next steps of the Alsop Interim Materials District Mine and Reclamation Plan. AM 24027, approval of contract amendment with RESPEC for $109,749 for continued support with the Metropolitan Planning Organization Development. AM 24028, approval of change order number 4 with contract 23002PC with Dowell for the Edgerton Parks Road Mountain Trails Drive Upgrade and Pathway Project to add $400,024 and 875, $400,000. Oh my Lord. $400,024. Nah.
424.
Thank you, Lordy. 424,875. I was struggling. Thank you, Madam Mayor. For construction management services and to extend the completion date to December 31st, 2025. AM 24029, approval of utility relocation cost in the amount of $166,159.70 to GCI for the Smith Road Extension Upgrade and Pathway Project, and to extend the completion date to December 15th, 2024. AM 2430, acceptance of late filed and retroactive senior citizen and disabled veteran exemption applications. AM 24031, approval of contract extension for contract 150B with Roger Hickle Contracting to extend the contract completion date to May 30th, 2024, and add $50,000 for the change order authority for the construction of Houston Middle School.
Okay, Assemblyperson Yuan.
I move to approve the consent agenda as read into the record by the clerk.
Is there any objection? Hearing none, the consent agenda has been approved. We do not have any unfinished business. We do not have any vetoes. Madam Clerk.
Introduction for public hearing on April 2nd. Ordinance 24036 with accompanying resolution 2430, ordinance 24038, ordinance 24039, and ordinance 24040.
Assemblyperson Yuan.
I move to introduce the legislation as read into the record by the clerk and set the public hearings for April 2nd, 2024.
Is there any discussion by the Assembly? Is there any objection? Hearing none, then the legislation has been introduced. Okay, vacancy report. Assemblyperson Yount, please.
I move to confirm the mayor's recommendations as follows. Board of Equalization, resignation of Amy Henry. Local Emergency Planning Committee, Jason Bauer. Kinnick RSA number 17, resignation of Gary Foster.
Is there any discussion? Any objection to the vacancy report? Okay. There is no new business. There are no referrals. We're now to the parting comments for staff and for assembly members. I'll go online, please. Deputy Mayor, do you have parting comments, sir?
Yeah, I wanted to tell everybody thank you for coming out, and We just got to be thankful and ask the Lord. We're so grateful for living in democracy to where we can debate each other and try to get along with each other. I want to be thank you, Lord, for our veterans. May you bless them for their sacrifices. As leaders work together to find solutions to the difficult problems, we ask you to bless us with wisdom, guide us with humility to one another, and help us to show Christ-like love to those they interest with, and be the advocate for our constituents and others. Please, Lord, bless our borough and watch over our residents. Please help the less fortunate, the downtrodden, the people that are suffering homelessness, addiction, anyone who is in need of your love. We all are in need of your love, Lord. I would like to pray for the people of Israel, and we are another David and Goliath story play out. In Jesus' name, amen.
Assemblyperson Hale, were you able to join us at some time? I know he was working late, but I didn't know if he had come online. So, Mr. Attorney, parting comments, sir? Assemblyperson McKee, parting comments? No? Assemblyperson Nowers, parting comments?
He didn't call me
It's going
Showers.
down the line.
The
so
previous
be
mayor had real trouble with the last name. If Vern is listening. Thank you. So I was really glad to see that we were going to online auctions for land sales. And I think that's pretty cool. I did notice that we're going to be hiring a company to run those, which makes sense. And I hope we'll do our best to keep whatever. I saw that we could pay up to 10% premium to them, and I hope we'll do what we can to like keep that to a minimum, use them, but not spend a lot of the money out the door for the company. And then I think it'd be really cool, to the extent possible, to make it like an outcry auction. So even though it's online, people would get a chance if they saw, oh, that person outbid me by $25, you get 3 rounds at the outcry auction, or the guy's saying it. If there's a way to make it so it doesn't just close at a certain time, but like the last bid, the highest bid comes in, you get another minute or 2 minutes or something like that. It'd be cool that if people want to bid more, they really want that property. I want to just note, for it's pretty much everyone's left, but the legislation next week, which I'm not bringing, but I just want people to be clear. It's only to set up a review committee that will be advisory to the borough. So it's good for people to read that legislation and know exactly what it is that it's talking about. I do have concerns that if it's an advisory committee, but if the goal is simply to pull books out, and I'm concerned if we don't have very clear guidelines for evaluating why we're pulling a book, that we could end up being sued. And I've been listening to the school book review committee, and I think that's been a really good process if you listen to those hearings. I think it is valuable to have a librarian on there. I know one of the things the librarian provides is how many times the book has been checked out, what sort of reviews it has in it, and occasionally the librarians sort of weigh in on terms of how you go about putting, what they look at as far as a collection. So I thought that the school committee review board has been really good, and if there's aspects we can take from them for this review committee, I think that would be good to the extent possible. And then, education, I just have to say it again and again. People say we're the worst, or 49th in the state. That is not Mat-Su School District. Mat-Su School District, when you look at the tests, is right there in the average. So I just think it's very unfair. And I don't think the person necessarily intended tonight, but that said, I think it does a real disservice to the people in our district who are working so hard to educate kids. You would not tell a football team they were last in the conference if they had, basically had a 50-50 win record. So we're about average. Sure, there's room for improvement, but Mat-Su is far from last, and there's many good educators and administrators, having had 2 kids go through that system, charter and public. that are working really hard with the kids. And I just do not want that to sit out there. And I think that could be really discouraging if they feel like everybody in the borough feels like they're just doing a terrible job when they're actually doing a really good job, and sometimes with really challenging situations. So, and then Arctic Winter Games, I can't not say anything about that. I had a great time volunteering at that, got to give out medals at the some of the events along with the manager, and I traded my mayor's pin for some awesome pins from Nunavut. And so thank you, Mayor, for supplying me with a few extra of those, because otherwise I would have had a hard time finding things to trade. So thank you for that.
Madam Clerk, do you have parting? Go ahead. Assemblyperson Fonoff, do you have parting comments, sir? No? Okay. Assemblyperson Gamble, do you have parting comments?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I just want to take a moment and thank the manager and Assemblymember Nauer for our trip to Juneau. I think we were pretty successful in getting our message across about our priorities for the Assembly and for the Matsu Borough, our legislative priorities. It was nice to see some of the people that I used to work with, but I don't miss Juneau and I don't miss the weather, that's for sure. And also, I'd like to comment on the Arctic Winter Games. I went to the opening ceremony in person, and you did a wonderful job, Madam Mayor. And that video that you put together was I mean, the whole ceremony was really nice. And then we watched a lot of the events my family and I did online. So I just want to commend everybody, the borough and the school district, for the job that they did putting together the Arctic Winter Games, and the president, John Rada, just happens to be a big Laker. So I just wanted to get that in there too. So thank you very much.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, thank you. So wanted to just thank everybody for all the hard work that they put into the Arctic Winter Games. When we took this vote up, it was right after I had been elected in 2020. And I was nervous that we as a body were not going to approve moving forward with hosting it. I think that to this day is probably the most impassioned speech I gave, hoping to get it approved. I'm heartbroken I couldn't be there, but our wrestling club that I help coach at recently lost our owner's wife due to cancer, and so Vinny could not make the trip, or Vince, the owner, and so it was necessary that I go to Washington with the kids. We only took 17 kids from the Valley. It's probably about a third of our club, and there was 104 teams there from all over the West Coast. And only having a third of our club, we still took 12th out of 104. So that was pretty cool. That was made up of kids here from every school in the Valley. So that was pretty neat. But it was a great week with, all the youngins. And I think we had kids there from about 5 up to 17 or so. And it was a lot of fun. I am heartbroken. I missed the Arctic Winter Games, but it sounds like it went amazing. And I appreciate everyone's hard work. So that's all I got. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, of course, thanks to all the volunteers at the meeting a week from tonight. We will be doing, if you had seen the agenda, a proclamation to the school board and to the host board of directors, just thanking them too for what they did. And so, that we'll pick that up a week from tonight. There's no executive session, and if there's no objection, we will adjourn at 8:05 p.m.